not watching TV or using anything on the internet, you can certainly mine Bitcoin. I mean, maybe that's not exactly answering that question, but I do see in the future there's a way for companies to work with Bitcoin to their own advantage. Certainly if you have millions or hundreds of millions of these set-top boxes. We're only going to have time for about another one or two questions. We're going to have to clear out here again this one.
My question, Mr. Chris, is regulation good or bad?
It kind of doesn't matter what I think about it. It's right here. It's a shame to see so much potential innovation, be stymied over the last 2 decades. I mean, so many attempts have been taken, so much money has been spent, so much effort on changing financial services, and 20 years in, it really has not changed. And what is so exciting about what everybody here is doing is this is the best shot we've ever had to completely break through into something completely new. People talk about the world being flat with trading of goods and services. That's true. There's another great book about finance. Its title is The World is Curved. And in finance, the world is curved. And Bitcoin, Ripple, the math-based currency we always got to do here is, I think, the greatest effort ever to make finance flat. That's what it's all about.
Dennison raised a good point earlier. The advent of ASICs becoming mainstream for Bitcoin, a lot of the infrastructure of GPU miners are going to jump ship to mostly script-based algorithms where they can still mine for a profit. But if and when script-based ASICs hit the market, there'll still be that large infrastructure of and community of people with GPU miners, looking for the next thing that they can put their hash power towards. So is there, do you have opinions or plans on a possible future for coins that are designed to support GPU miners? And if there's any inherent value in that besides just that people want something to mine with the infrastructure that's already in place?
I myself think that by the time someone builds an ASIC miner for Litecoin, I think a lot of the GPUs that are running right now in Bitcoin will be dead. They'll be a few years down the road. They've already been mining for a few years. That'll be over. I don't think in this, 5 years from now, perhaps future, that there'll actually be that many GPUs left around that are mining. I think they're kind of an endangered species in a little way. In that sense, we'll go back to using them for just, gaming or whatever else.
Or holding at home, let's cure cancer.
Yeah, that's a good point. But there's no alternative in that. If we could maybe make that pay, that's
productivity is an incentive.
Yeah,
That's the
humans don't.
That's the younger generation talking.
Respond to that, but it's true. And just kind of we have one more question.
Just kind of follow up on the GPU mining. There was a talk in the security analyst about the concentration of hashing power in the Bitcoin network now because of the ASICs miners and the danger that's bringing to the Bitcoin network. And talk of potentially even a hard fork and making Bitcoin mining ASIC proof, essentially going back to GPU mining to redistribute that power back out. What impact will that have on the alternate currencies? And do you see that as even being likely?
ASICs are not, they're not very centralized. I mean, there is the issue of there's a couple of VATs making them, and so what if the VAT owners are doing their own runs? That's a far out possible scenario. But they're being sold. They're not being used. But Avalon's not doing their own mine. They're distributing them. The issue, I think, is more that there's only a couple of pools that would give really good performance on ASICs, and so everyone's throwing them at the same pools. And to that, I say use P2Pool. That's why it's there. Everyone does their own validation. It's okay if P2Pool is more than 50% of the network because there's no threat there.
I think we have about 30 seconds, so if you want to talk really fast.
Okay, this is a quick question primarily for Dennison regarding what happened with Terracoin. And my question is basically if a large nation state were to decide to, who had access to chip fabrication facilities, like say China, were to decide to were to decide to print a whole bunch of ASICs and drive the difficulty of Bitcoin up 1,000-fold, 10,000-fold. Could the same thing happen to Bitcoin? And is there anything we could do to recover our wealth if this happened?
Well, I mean, you can almost never recover your wealth. But there's people who are much more technically skilled and can be able to answer that in more clear, precise terms. I think you raise a good point, though. This is why ASICs are important. We need more of them so that, you know, the hashing power is more widely distributed.
So in Friedcoin, we just pushed out a hard fork. It'll take effect probably tomorrow, possibly the day after. That adds a new difficulty adjustment algorithm. That is, it took a lot of research to get it right, but it's near optimal. It adjusts every 9 blocks and it's able to recover up to a steady state after just 120 blocks. If you double the hash rate, for example.
But you don't foresee Bitcoin taking up a new
If
difficulty.
you could use the mics of people online.
You don't foresee Bitcoin taking up a new difficulty adjustment algorithm, though, right?
In that crazy scenario of that happening, sure.
Right, yes or no?
But at this point, there's no reason to.
We need to wrap it up now. Thank you all for coming.
I'll be here to answer questions.
There'll be a performance at the main stage in 15 minutes. The performance will be South Pond.